to come out massively, peacefully also, to cast their vote. We assure them there will be a very free, fair, and a very transparent election, and this election will be very, very credible because this is the last major election of the Commission before the general election. So we are holding this. We know that all Nigerians are looking at us and waiting upon us, and not just people of Osun alone. So this election is very, very germane to the Commission because not just Osun State people, Nigerians are watching us, and international community is also interested in the success of this election. So we are not underrating anything. We are taking all that we have, all our arsenals, to the front tomorrow to ensure that we succeed.
All right, Mr. Abuja, thank you very much indeed. Femi did say that INEC is like a referee in a football pitch. What we don't know is whether they can give red card or yellow card.
They surely can.
All right.
Go against the law.
Yes, Olusegun Abuja, a resident electoral commissioner, INEC, Osun State. Thank you. We wish you well. I will also be monitoring your activities in the course of that election. Thank you very much indeed for reaching us all the way from Osogbo, the capital of Osun State. Thank you once again. All right, Good Morning Nigeria continues in a moment. Now, of course, we're going to the one of the topics slated for this morning's conversation, and that's talking about participation in peace building, and that will be after the break. Stay with us.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. In our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What makes a Nigerian mom powerful?
I trust the power of Dettol's One Capful for bathing. The power of Dettol's One Capful protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Be 100% sure.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights.
Come do on yourself now.
Now wow. Oh boy, calm down now. Oga Kasali, electrician, who will they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer, because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from over.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome back, and now to set this tone for our conversation on community participation in peace building, let's take this background report from our correspondent, Mitaire Ikwen.
Peace is a state of being free from any kind of human conflict and violence. Peace is imperative for growth and development in any society, as it helps to create the feeling of love, trust, tolerance, and brotherhood among people. In a world of increasing conflicts and acts of terrorism, peace appears to be elusive or threatened. Experts on peace building are quick to point out that separatist agitations, militancy, terrorism, and other manifestations of violence capable of threatening national unity usually fester from disputes or grievances that are not tackled at communal levels. This underscores the advocacy that the promotion of peace must be undertaken not only at the international and national levels, but also at the local level. beginning with families, tribes, and communities where disputes can potentially escalate to violent conflicts. According to peace-building experts, people are the best resource for building and sustaining peace. As a result, there is a need for a participatory, bottom-up approach in the quest for peace in the society. In pre-colonial Nigeria, traditional institutions played significant roles in local administration, conflict management, and resolution, as well as peace-building efforts. But there has been a decline of such roles over time. What strategies are required to facilitate community participation in the peace-building process? And what can be done to strengthen the capacity of community-based institutions in the peace-building process? These will form part of discussions on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you for staying with us up to this moment on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. And now to one of the topics for the day. Joining us in the studio to do justice to this topic is Brigadier General John Agim. He's the Director, Defense and Information, Defense Headquarters here in Abuja. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And from our Kaduna Network studio, we have Hawa Evelyn Yusuf, Professor of Criminology and Gender Studies, Department of Sociology, Kaduna State University. Madam, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kiran. Good morning, Nigeria.
And from the northeast of Nigeria, Maiduguri to be precise, we have joining us to discuss the issue, Dr. Bolama Mai Gubio, Secretary, Boronu Elders Forum. Sir, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, Brigadier General Agim, if we did not have the current situation we have of terrorism and insurgency, this topic would also always be there. And so it is on the basis of that I'm going to ask you, generally in Nigeria, what is the level of community participation in peace building, whether in crisis situation or not, even in normal situations? What, from your studies, have been the level of community participation?
Well, I will say that the level of community participation is quite low. And because of that, the military decided to establish Department of Civil Military Affairs, where we work with the community for them to understand that this is the people's military. And if we're having any security issue, they have a part to play.
What are the communities, what are they expected to be doing as a contribution to peace building?
Basically, the community is supposed to give information to the military because when there is security challenge, they know what is happening there more than the military or security agents that come in there to assist. So if you leave the military alone, it will take time for them to get to know what actually is happening. So information sharing is very important.
All right, information sharing, very important, but oftentimes some members of the community could, of course, not be very willing to give information because of perhaps they may become victims, but we shall get to that in the course of this discussion. But now let's go to Kaduna, where we have Professor Hawa Evelyn Yusuf, who is a professor of criminology and, of course, a sociologist. Madam, I want to ask you there. I want to ask to allow you to key into the first question that Femi asked, and that's because community participation is key to resolving crises at the community level and, of course, at the larger society, being the entire nation. Because most times, some of these crises are hatched in communities, and, of course, it blows up in the entire nation. Now, what, in your opinion, should be the participation of communities in the fight against the unpeaceful situation?
I'll answer that question straight on, but I would want to correct the fact that I am still an associate professor of criminology and gender studies. The journey to the professor's seat is close by. Community peace building is both a process, a social and a structural process. And the community is expected to build trust, peaceful cohesion between and within communities. It is the duty of the community to ensure that they are able to resolve issues around cultural practices and relationships within their community, and then between them and other communities around them, to ensure peaceful coexistence. So the principal responsibility of the community is to ensure that they are able to contain issues that can result into crisis. And this will only be attainable if we build the capacities of existing structures within the society, like community development associations, peace building or conflict resolution committees, and even the elder councils. These are the basic resources needed in strengthening or building peace within the community and between communities. Because national peace building can only occur if there is peaceful coexistence within the society, within a community, and then between communities that surrounds them.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yusuf. Let's go to Maiduguri, because we're trying to set the stage for subsequent issues. And if we're talking about community participation, the community is expected to know what is expected of them. And so I would ask Dr. Gubai from Maiduguri to tell us what you expect from the communities in peace building.
Thank you very much. What I expect from our community is to continue doing what they have been doing before the Boko Haram insurgency. Throughout this country, Nigeria, in all cultures, traditions, Nigerians, individual families, groups, and associations build their existence on peacemaking. All our customs, our cultures, our traditions are based on peace building. Nigerians had maintained peace within their families, within their communities, and within the country as a whole, through so many ways. Now that this insurgency has shattered the peace, I think the people should go back to what they used to know. By doing this, right now, we can see that the victims of insurgency in Borno State are so resilient and they are so brave that they are on their own, without any government intervention, going back to their ancestral homes, even when they know that remnants of the insurgency are all over the bushes. They have gone back. Some of them have been tilling their land, and some of them have been assisting their colleagues in the process when they are attacked by Boko Haram. The military, other security forces, combined with the efforts of the civilian JTF and the people themselves, have now established their presence in all our villages, cottages, and hamlets. There is no region in the northeast where people are not living today, unlike from 2012 to 2015, when the entire landscape, nearly 90% of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa were left to the Boko Haram to control. Today, The military have established their presence all over the land. The other security forces have joined them. The civilian JTF have joined them. And the people themselves are no longer afraid of the military or other security forces. They are now very friendly with the military, with security forces. Civil authorities are being re-established. In fact, the presence of civil authority is the most important thing in the life of the people. When the people know that their district heads, village heads, ward heads, cottage heads are there to assist them, to support them, to listen to them, they no longer fear going back to their ancestral homes because of Boko Haram. In fact, what gave Boko Haram the upper hand in the beginning was that there was a mistrust between the armed forces and the people, and also there was some kind of fear instilled into the people when their entire structures and establishments were wiped out, when they were killed in mass. But today, the military are pursuing the Boko Haram into their nooks and crannies, into their dungeons, and therefore the people are now residing all over the place, and they are trying to build their own structures. In fact, we have been saying before that if the government and the non-governmental organizations will directly assist the people to go back to their ancestral homes and build their own structures, it will be faster to establish peace. But the insistence of organizations that the people should now wait until they build structures for them, until they establish public institutions, that would delay the process of peace. If we want peace quickly, the people should be empowered. After all, in the first place, they were the people who built their own structures, they built their own institutions, and now that if you give them very little support, they can go back to their ancestral homes, build the type of structures they want to build, and then carry on with their lives. Non-governmental organizations, up to this moment, are only assisting the people in their daily needs, feeding, maybe medication and other issues of human existence. So long as we continue like this, peace process will be delayed, because if I continue to feed you, give you water, blankets, this and that, and not providing you with your structures where you live, not assisting you to go back to your farmland, not assisting you to go back to the lake or the rivers for fishing, then I will continue to keep you as a baby and continue to feed you. So the peace process in this part of the country should be based on collaborating between the government, between the non-governmental organizations, between the United Nations, and philanthropics to ensure that apart from taking care of their welfare, they should also be assisted directly to go back to their ancestral homes. For example, if you are going to spend 20 million naira to set up a 2-bedroom flat, you don't need to do that in my village. If you want to give me a 2-bedroom flat that will cost you 20 million naira, just give me 2 million or 1 million. I will establish myself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bulama. Thank you for giving us an insight into the unique problems in that part of the country. And we also have in the studio someone who can bring us a picture too of another part of the country where people possibly say that the cultural setting has been diffused for contemporary issues. I have with us Ambassador Marvin Yobana of the Niger Delta Youth. He's an activist, and he's been on community participation for some time now.
Let me ask him this question, Femi. You know, from the scenario explained by our last speaker, you see, before the advent of colonialism, people had peace-building strategies and mechanisms that sustain peace within and between communities. Now, we have a modern trend where, of course, we have been colonized, there's civilization, people have access to several, you know, sources of peace building and all of that. Now, from what Femi just raised, and that is your area, known to be restive in some occasions. Now, what should be the participation of the community in building peace?
Well, thank you for having me. You see, the issues are peculiar to different areas, like you said.
on the onset. Because like I come from the Niger Delta region, the people are predominantly farmers and fishermen. So the resources in their land is what they live by. That is the land and the sea. So what brings about conflict is where you bring the multinational companies come and the oil exploration activities impact on these, their livelihood, which is the land and the sea. This is what brings conflict. So the community participation in peace building, it's very, very important. It has been there, like you said, from the colonial days up till now. The community needs to know, they need to own whatever comes into their land. Own it in the sense that you tell them what you're doing, you get them involved in the processes. When you get them involved in the processes, they definitely own that thing. They feel a sense of well-being, that you're not letting them down and you're not undermining them. When they have that sense of belonging, then they protect your own commercial activities or whatever you're trying to do in the land. But you see, the issues of where you come to lord it over the people and try to use kind of force, or you bring a stereotype thing that works in some other part of the country and you want to use it on this other side, the peculiarities are different. So it cannot work with the people. So it is very important, like recently, let me give an example. Recently, with the promise of the federal government trying to clean up like the areas like Ogoniland, for instance, that has doused a lot of tension. And how did the federal government do that? They involved the community. Now, there was the governing council set up by the community in collaboration with government. And now the people feel that they're part of this whole project and part of that process. So the essence of the cleanup exercise is now known by the people, owned by the people, and the people are being involved in the process. So that gives them a sense of belonging. Now, yes, we have to work together with the authorities to ensure this thing works. So how does that work in the general analysis of what we are talking about? Every peace-building effort must be self-driven by the people who are going to be beneficiaries of it. In formulating policies of government, you must get the community participation in it. The community must be involved because such policies must be homegrown in such a way that it will reflect what the people want and also help in solving problems. And you also know that in terms of security, like what we're witnessing in the Northeast, for instance, community is very important because the community knows who are these people who come into the communities, who perpetrates all these crimes. But if you have a cordial relationship within the community at the CDC level, that's the community development level, at the chieftaincy level, at the youth level, it now, you galvanize the community to form what might be called a community policing kind of, and you now gather intelligence from that, which will now help the regular authorities or security departments to be able to monitor and forestall any crisis that will come. But if you form your own policies and load it on the people tend to resist it, and that's where these conflicts come.
General Agim, normally people don't expect to see the military in a normal society. They want to live their lives. When you get the involvement of the military, it is because something has gone wrong. At the stage the military gets involved, how do you revert to all these things that we have been talking about? Because your involvement is a last resort, actually. How can you bring back the hand of the clock, so to say, or go back to what the community is supposed to do when you have a primary responsibility of bringing back peace, for instance, which is the first thing that brought you there in the first instance?
Okay, just like you were saying, initially when we get into communities that are having security issues, there is this resistance because of the cultural dynamics in most of our communities. You know that before now, in most communities, you cannot even, if you have any issue, you settle those issues traditionally. You don't report even to the police. Any attempt to do that, you'll be sanctioned by the community. And I think these cultural traits still have some impact in when the security, that make the community to resist working with the military, because they don't know what will happen they are not sure whether they should give this report. And I think because of that, the military have gradually changed in their approach when we are getting into communities. You must, first of all, understand that this is your military. We are there to ensure that those people who are causing security challenge that affect you, these are the people that we want to take out and for you to resume your normal lives. So in order to do that, we have introduced some quick impact projects wherever we are having, we are operating to bring the peace. We take care of community. We do a lot of things like in the Northeast where he was talking about, where Dr. Boloma was talking about. We have military men that go to IDP camps to lecture. That is the thing that make that relationship to teach the children in IDP camps. We provide some medical needs and so many other things. And where, like in the Niger Delta, where Ambassador comes from, initially when the feeling is always that when security agent is brought in, the intention is to intimidate the people and bring them to submission. But that is not always, that's not true. So we look at the colonial, the military security agents from our colonial days, it was used to intimidate the people, and people have that perception still persists, but it is not true.
All right, Brigadier General, let me remain with you because you raised a very critical, points now, and Ambassador, your banner also did. And let me put it this way: being privy of the fact that there are cultural traits that communities still abide by that could affect your relationship with them. Now, what are the strategies that the military usually should put in place to get the community, because the communities have leaders, right? Offering some assistance or medical assistance may not be enough because you have not really touched the fabrics of society. We have leaders in every society. So is there any kind of relationship between the military and leaders for such community to be able to now, create the environment that Ambassador Yobana just mentioned to carry the community along?
Yes, there is any commander that gets into a community without relating with the leaders of those communities, the youth leaders, the community leaders. You can't be successful because you will still be, they continue to suspect you every move you take. And so if you want to disseminate information to the grassroots, you have to go through the traditional chains that is in place. Where you don't have that, you don't get it from their leaders, then you have a problem. For a long time, it will take you long for you to be able to actually achieve any peace in that community.
Now, let me come back to you, Dr. Evelyn Yusuf in Kaduna. In one's study of alternative dispute resolution, you find this kind of problem, the same kind of problem that we're talking about in community participation in peace building. And it comes from the fact that society has evolved. We must go by our conventional way of governance. Governance has changed from the local level to the modern level. And so we seem to forget what we normally have done as communities. Now, when did we start to have a disconnect between the communities and the governance at the center? Because that seems to be what every community wants to be on its own, wants to administer itself. But they are subjected to the central government. At what point did we then lose our traditional beliefs that makes it impossible for us to have peace within the communities first?
We lost it at the very moment when people who have some influence at the central level started using their own selfish interest as against the community interest. As I've always said, community peace building is synonymous with community policing, and alternative dispute resolution, even in the conventional world, it has remained the best method in dispute resolution. ADR is such that it gives room for you to settle a lot of issues without having to go to the court system. Even the court system allows you or gives you a chance to go and use a particular type of ADR to be able to settle your disputes. Now, the ancient community method of settling disputes even forbids people from going to the court. In fact, there are popular saying in some quarters that you don't go to court or you don't go to the police station and then come back to be friends. And if people want to maintain relationship, it is usually better to use alternative dispute resolution. Now, peace building must be a bottom-up kind of approach and not the top-bottom thing. What we have today is that there is a structure, a central structure, that stipulates the methods through which you can resolve your disputes. However, the original community method is such that the community leaders follow some processes which does not necessarily hurt both parties. Now, talking about the different type of cultural practices that we have that might not be palatable to some other communities close to us, and how do we bring ourselves to be able to live in peaceful coexistence. Our cultural leaders have a system of give and take. They have a system of bringing our cultures together in such a way that, okay, we know that this is a taboo for this community. We wouldn't go there. Okay, what can we do? Our children want to marry from that culture, which have certain things that are different from our own culture. So what do we do in this instance? In most cases, some compromises are met based on mutual agreement. Nobody imposes peace. Peace cannot be imposed from outside. It has to come from within. And when it comes from within, it encourages, it strengthens trust and brings peaceful coexistence. Because there is no way any community can live on its own as an island. The community makes up the society, or different communities make up the society. And there is that nexus that needs to be exploited. The fact that human being is dependent on order. People should exploit that single thing that brings two people or two different communities together, so as to be able to make them understand that they are living together in harmony is beneficial, not just to them as individuals, but to the whole world around them.
All right, thank you indeed, madam. We may return to you if time allows us in the course of the program. But now let's go over to Maiduguri, where we have Dr. Bulama Maigubio. Sir, you actually told a good story about what happened in the northeast of Nigeria, Borno State to be precise. And I will recall that you mentioned that there was a failure of initial collaboration between the military and the communities that could be some years ago, because now there is an established collaboration between the military and communities that actually led to decimation of terrorists in that part of the country. Now, what was the strategy? What really, synergized or brought about that relationship that also led to civilian JTPs?
Well, thank you very much. At the beginning, when the military were brought in to stop the insurgency, the Boko Haram insurgents were largely residing within the city of Maiduguri. And they were mostly young men who were all over the city, and they have been attacking military, police, and other forces of locations. So when the military came, they were not able to identify who were the insurgents and who are the normal children. So they decided to attack all young people who they see, to the extent that nobody was allowed to go near any military formation. All police stations were closed. All other formations, security formations, were closed to the public. The military checkpoints, the military formations were no-go area. So the people were on their own because they were running from the military who came to rescue them, because the military themselves were in a dilemma. They were not able to identify who the real culprits were. So the hue and cry was so much that some of us even called at that time for the withdrawal of the military. I was the one who went on air and demanded for the immediate withdrawal of the military, being the secretary of the Borno Elders Forum. But then, when our youth rose to the occasion, the civilian JTF, and drove out all the Boko Haram insurgents in the city of Maiduguri, then the military began to understand that not all the youth of Borno were Boko Haram, and that the collaboration between the military and the civilian population started. And then another strategy taken was that all the displaced communities, their traditional leaders, are still being imposed on them. When you come to Maiduguri, you will find that even if an entire local government was displaced, in Maiduguri they have their own camp with their local government chairman and councillors, with their district heads, village heads, all living in the same camp. So it was as if they were living in their own local governments. That brings about the peaceful coexistence between the local governments. In one camp, like the Bagasi camp, you may find 7 to 8 local governments residing within that camp. And then they even intermarry within the camps. It may even interest you to know that some of the security forces even get married to some of the displaced persons. So that brought about the cohesion, the collaboration, and initially the military could not get credible information from the local communities because you cannot go and meet them. Now they are just like one family. You can just come to any military formation. They will not even point their guns at you. The worst you can do is just raise your hands and come to them and say, what is it? So I saw in so area, and then the military will take them seriously. What happens in the rural areas is a little bit disheartening because we have been getting reports that some villagers who used to give credible information to the formations in the bushes, there are no prompt attention until they get orders from higher authority. I think the military should diversify the type of authority they give and give standing directives to their formations in the bushes to immediately take care of information coming from the villages. Recently, the Boko Haram are re-emerging, and few of the reports we are receiving is that they had prior knowledge of some of those attacks. But because of some hiccups coming from maybe their high commands or whatever, they did not take prompt action until the Boko Haram insurgents attacked, like the ones they did in Kangarwa, like the one in Jilli, like the one in Guzamala, and the one recently in Kondoga. We learned that some of the villagers have reported the presence of Boko Haram, but then maybe they are waiting for orders from above, and then the Boko Haram took advantage to attack the people. But other than that, the initially created disharmony has completely disappeared, and the military-civilian cooperation is just like police and civilian before the military came in.
That's for the practical examples you gave, and when you started with the story of how the military came and started to attack every youth, it just showed me that that was not a new strategy. It was a strategy adopted by Herod when he was looking for the Lord Jesus Christ. And recently, I watched a movie too that testified to that system, which the Pharaoh used when he was looking for Anabi Musa, and he killed all firstborns, all male children. And so possibly the military picked from that, but that's just an aside. But Ambassador Yobana, you had the role which the civilian JTF played. And of course, we know that one cap does not fit everything. Yeah. However, in the Niger Delta, have we seen the role youths play to counter the unproductive, violent militancy which we see? Do we have something like that?
Definitely. Most communities that are at the receiving end of this militancy, and not just the militancy, these issues of illegal refining of petroleum products that cause a lot of environmental hazards in the Niger Delta, most communities have taken proactive measures in ensuring that they forestall it by reporting those who are involved in such illegal trades to the authorities. They have also formed a kind of, you might call it a surveillance or vigilante groups that monitor these insurgents to know when they are coming in, these militants, when they want to strike. And that has formed a kind of security for the communities, because each community wants peace. Our parents, our grandparents live in these communities. So definitely they want to be able to go out for farming, for fishing. So they formed these different groups to forestall and ensure that there's peace in the communities. But you see, there's something that is lacking. When the Vice President visited the Niger Delta the last time, let me take you back a little bit, he made a lot of promises in terms of getting these persons who are involved in this illegal refining of petroleum products to come together to form a kind of a modular refinery, or kind of training them to be able to stop that completely, and also use them as a form of information gathering, and also to protect the facilities on ground so as not to disrupt the flow of the petroleum products, whatever. But you see, up till now, as we speak, those things have not been done. And I was expecting that, like the amnesty program, for instance, would have taken a component of that to say, okay, these whole nucleus of people who are involved in this, let's group them together and let us use them like the pipeline guides and all that, and now train them in such a way that they could do this thing in the proper way. And now they can have small modulars that could now serve those refineries around the area.
Ambassador Yobana, I know the Niger Delta is very sensitive. I would like to ask you one more question, your last question. Yeah. You know, because of what happens in that area. Now, you remember the Ogoni 9? Yeah. There are situations where the youth will rise against the leaders. So my question is, what should be the role of the community leaders, or how can they be empowered as super gatekeepers for peace in their communities? What should be their proper role?
Well, the role of the community leaders is very clear. The community leaders should be unpolitical, that is, they should not be partisan. Partisan in the sense that they support party A against party B. The community interest should be predominant in whatever their decisions have to make. You see, the Ogoni 9 you talked about is a very clear case to look at. It's a clear study, because we have the Ogoni 9 and we have the Ogoni 4, which is the Ogoni 13. You understand? So if you say Ogoni 9, you remove the other ones from it, it looks as if these ones are different. All of them were victims of the tragedies that happened within that period. And now that was a black age for the Ogonis. And if you look at it, the community leaders played a role in this whole thing, and they did not nip it in bud before it got to that stage. Because you see, when you start inciting a community against certain group of persons or leadership, they will now see them as enemies of the community rather than as friends of the community. That is why in every peace-building effort that the authorities will partake in, it's always important to involve the community and let the community and the government partner towards.
We'll stop you there. We'll stop you there, Ambassador Yobana. And just your last few words from you as the final thought.
Well, peace building in any community will certainly need community leaders. We certainly need everybody. And it is difficult for the military to be everywhere in a particular area. So if you don't have participation from the community, it will be difficult to nip any security issue in the board, because by the time you inform the military from wherever they are stationed to get to where the problem is, they must have caused a lot of havoc. So we want to say that whenever security agents are called to a place, every community should realize that these are their own security agents. We are not there to cause them any harm. They should do everything to support the military so that we can keep the peace for them.
All right. Thank you very much, Brigadier General John Agwin, the Director of Information Defense Headquarters. We also want to thank you from our Kaduna studio, Dr. Hawa Evelyn Yusuf, Associate Professor of Criminology and Gender Studies, Department of Sociology, Kaduna State University. From Maiduguri, we thank Dr. Bulama for being with us. He is the Secretary of the Elders Committee in Borno State. And here, Ambassador Marvin Yobana. Thank you very much, Niger Delta Youth activist.
You know, we made the lady a professor, and she told us that she's an associate professor. We wish you well. We believe that before the end of the year, you'll get your professorial position. Thank you very much.
And now we go to our next topic. And to set the stage for that, let's take our news, our sports news segment that will set the stage for our next topic.
That was the chairman electoral committee, Mohammed Sani Katu, declaring the incumbent NFF president, Amaju Melvin Pennick, as the winner of the 2018 NFF Elective Congress, having fulfilled all the requirements of Act 36 of NFF Status 2016 and defeated 3 other candidates. Former NFF president Aminu Maigari came second with 8 votes. In another contest, the incumbent first vice president of the NFF, Sheyi Akinwumi, defeated Sunday Dele Ajayi to win the post of NFF first vice president by 42 votes to 2. Ibrahim Musa Gusau defeated Patrick Ifanyi Uba, who withdrew from the race, by 42 votes to 1 as the chairman of chairmen. 44 delegates drawn from NFF affiliate associations participated in the voting, which was supervised by FIFA and CAF observers. The president-elect, Amaju Melvin Pennick, pledged to uphold the implementation of policies and programs to develop Nigerian football at all levels.
I want to thank the president, but beyond that, it's just to continue with our vision of what we want to do for Nigerian football.
Earlier, the event was declared open by the governor, Katsina State, Aminu Bello Mosari, who enumerated some of the achievements recorded by the NFF in recent years and appealed for a free and fair elections. The elected executives will steer the affairs of Nigerian Football Federation for the next 4 years. In Katsina, Abidu Yunusa, NTA News.
All right. Well, we are going to be discussing matters arising from the NFF elections. We are now being joined by our guest here. The only guest we have for this very segment, who happens to be a lady, that's Okpanachi. She's been a sports analyst for a long time, Joy Okpanachi, and she's here with us this morning to analyze the elections held yesterday by the NFF in Katsina. Joy Okpanachi, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
First, were you in Katsina?
I wasn't in Katsina. I was in Abuja.
Okay. So what's your level of monitoring and your assessment of the election itself?
Of the election?
Yes.
The NFF election?
Yes,
well, I had some people who were on ground to tell us how the election went. There was a lot of politicking as usual in Nigerian politics. So sports cannot be, you can't exclude sports in our politics. And I heard that the good thing this time around was that There were no fightings. People who felt that they were able to carry the NFF and the football house all went there, laid everything on the table, talked to different people, cajoled people. The good thing about Nigerian football is that there was no money politics. So for me, that was a plus for me.
Okay, now, sorry, Femi, you know, yesterday we heard from Jide that this is going to be the first time NFF president, is running for a second term. It never happened before. Right. What, in your opinion, was the icebreaker here? How could he return and, in fact, win again?
Well, I never really liked Pinnick when he first came into office, but I followed him up, and I've always said that what you don't have, you can give. You have to give Pinnick thumbs up. Because if you want to choose somebody that is knows about football, it's not about knowing about football. You have to know about the politics. You have to know about the dynamics of politics. One key thing I have to give Pinnick for is that he has the ears of FIFA. So for me, that is a plus, and I think he deserved to win. And I've always said that your record speaks for you. That's why he really didn't talk much. He has changed the way we look at football in Nigeria, because the main thing I've always realized in Nigeria is that we just think about making money and not investing that same money that was brought into football, into our football. And I think for the second time around, I think it would be good for everybody to come together, all groups to come together and try to see how our football can move from where it is now to a higher stake.
This analysis you've just given possibly answers one of the questions I was going to put to you. I was going to ask you if you were surprised that he won by such a margin, part of the answer you've given. But aren't you bothered that in spite of the good performance, using your analysis, good performance of somebody, sports, politics is still subdued in the debt of squabbles wanting to get into government. Now, this may not have shown practically this time, but look at the history of football. Why do we fight and kill each other so much to get into the football house?
If you listen to my intro, I've always said it, that Nigerian football, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in football. And I've always known that many people who have gotten those positions don't have the interest of Nigerian football. What they're going for is what they can get from football, but not thinking of what they can give back to football. So for me, if you say things have not changed, but for the first time in Nigerian football, we've had a man that deserved to be in that position because he worked, because he knew he was coming back again. So he needed a record for him to be able to be voted back into power.
All right, just before we introduce our second guest for this conversation, let me ask you this. Now, what was the reaction of those who were defeated in that election? And with a special interest on Megari, whom we were informed was disqualified. Yes. But perhaps from what we saw, he contested the election.
Yes,
what's the reaction of those who really lost the election?
I don't think there was a reaction, because before the election, I felt that it was just a matter of time, because we knew that whether we liked it or not, with the groundwork that Pinnick had put down, everybody knew that Pinnick was going to win. But the only surprise I had was the margin. It was unanimous. That was, for me, that was what was surprising.
Now, we have in the studio another face you are possibly used to. He is a regular analyst of sport. Mike Anahoro, you're welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nigeria. How are you?
First, your reaction to the election.
There is, I think it's about time that we got to the point where Nigerians begin to see some consistency. Congratulations to Amaju, Sheyi, and the rest of the team that got to win the elections, and for the credibility of the electorate. I think this is, my happiness is it went without rancor. The people came, the delegates were there, and the election process was concluded. Now, the only thing that I have is now the bridge too far might just begin. Because, again, you cannot vacate the legal orders, court orders that is hanging. At last count, it's 7. 7 court orders are in existence and active. So you cannot vacate it. So my advice to them would be to, and I keep using the word, it's an aberration, but it's called the normalization. Bringing up everybody in that is a stakeholder. This is what leadership is all about. You've won an election. An election is not the leadership of the federation. Everyone that is out is a stakeholder, whatever their grievances are. Even there are some jokers and funny people that have gone to court for any reason, exercising their rights. Now, we need to vacate those orders. No matter how flimsy they are, we need to vacate them and let everybody's position, at least give everybody a semblance that they are heard, their issues are taken into account, and then we can begin to move the federation forward. Because if not, you will not enjoy one day of peace in the next realm. And that's my position.
Mike and Ahoro, historically speaking, there's always been a case in court against NFF leadership. It's always been there over time. And one funny thing is that they go to conventional courts, which FIFA do not respect. Because, of course, we have specialized courts for such cases. So for many Nigerians, it may not make sense, the orders are talking about. Just yesterday, I was listening to a radio station, in the car, and I heard them saying that already people are registering for voting in that election, because they started quite early. But about 11 p.m., we had about court order. Probably the election has started before the court order came out, right? So, and it was concluded. So what I'm asking is that these stakeholders who may have lost election, shouldn't it be wiser for them to withdraw such cases in conventional courts, which do not make sense to FIFA?
No, it's not a question. You see, Nigeria is a very funny conundrum. Nigeria is in a conundrum that's normal. When FIFA's money doesn't come, who funds football? If you take a penny of the federal government of Nigeria and you're registered in the budget line item, you're a parastatal of government. And for that, you must be seen to be adjudicated under the laws of the federal government of Nigeria. Because, again, if the federal government wants to audit its own parastatal, you can be given an administrative punishment. You collected our money, you needed to audit for it, we are putting you in the next line item of government budget, and we'll release funds to you. Who pays for the federation's salary of the workers? So you cannot say the Nigerian government is not a stakeholder. It is. It is funding Nigerian football for the period and the times and the blocks that FIFA does not put money on the table. It is funding all of this. Bringing in your footballers, camping of Nigerian footballers, Olympic Games preparation, under 17 boys and girls, under 20 boys and girls, women's competition. This is funded in part by the federal government of Nigeria. So if a Nigerian has a grievance on how you are spending the commonwealth of Nigeria, they will take you to the court where they will seek redress.
I'm not cutting you short, please.
Yes.
Because football is an international business now.
Yes.
Headed by FIFA. And the word is just the last. So your own local or domestic conundrum should not affect FIFA. That's why they can ban you. So what I'm driving at here is that people will still go to court after this election.
Of course.
And if you go against this election, FIFA will strike. So if you have a look, after all, football is not supposed to be funded by government elsewhere. Elsewhere, it is a
private environment.
So we cannot bring our own environment to fit into the international environment. I want you to juxtapose that.
Now, let me tell you why that is going to continue and FIFA won't ban you. Because they understand that for the time and the cost it takes for you to be able to fund Nigerian football, at the cost which it is, its money is not enough. So there are two ways to deal with this. Number one, my advice is for the federal government of Nigeria, take your money out of football. Go and do education, go do health, go do fishing, go do youth development, go do youth employment. Leave football and let football be something that is sponsored by the football community itself. The fraternity of football is rich in Nigeria. The fraternity of football is rich. If you look at all the betting organizations that are throwing money into football right now, the NFF should not be wanting for money. If you look at the amount of money for developmental football that is coming into Nigerian football, NFF should not be want for money. So let Nigerian government go use its money elsewhere for areas that are more developmentally helpful to the country. And that is the only way that charlatans would leave this, because free money is not in existence. If you don't account for any money, charlatans will come in because it is free money and they don't want to come in. So if NFF and Amaju and the rest of the team say today that we are going to fund Nigerian football outside government budget, that the Minister for Sports will be glad and give all of them an award and tell them to go ahead and Godspeed.
Only thinkers will now come into NFF.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Now, I want you to, we'll go back to Joy, but Mike, take note in case you want to respond to this. I want us to move forward. Okay. But as it is, there's something that would always pull us back. We cannot treat the laws and the courts of our land with ignominy. The courts take exception to that when they give an order and you ignore. Now, I'm not even concerned so much about this election. I'm concerned about the litigations that were pending before all this, and in the first term of the Amaju Pinnick something. And yet, on one hand, a lot of Nigerians think that this is the best we have had in terms of Nigeria's participation at the international level, FIFA level, CAF level, that Amaju Pinnick has really brought Nigeria out. So nobody wants to throw Amaju Pinnick away like that. And yet, the reality is that he must sort some things out. How does he move forward?
Like he said, we have to get Nigerian football out of government. That is the way out.
If he gets Nigerian football out of government now, there are cases that were on in Jos, that were on before this process started. What does he do about that?
I was a bit surprised because most of the people who want to get into football don't have the interest of football at heart. What they want is the money that comes out of football. So I think that Pinnick and his team should come together with the stakeholders and take all these litigations out of court.
Mike, what's the confidence level in CAS? Yes. Why would people, when they know that FIFA does not want you to go to conventional courts in each country, why would people go to conventional court when there is CAS available for them?
Okay, there are two things that is missing. One, there is no adjudicating law in Nigeria. We do not have an NFF law that says this is the guiding book for which football in Nigeria should be administered. Once that is missing, then everything is in vacuum and left for interpretation. So where do you go to get interpretation of your grievances?
The NFF that is sitting.
So you cannot go back to the NFF organization to say, I am angry with you, so I'm coming back to you to tell you I'm angry. So you want to go to somebody that would listen to your grievances and bring everybody to the table. So that's number one. Should we be able to get this, the law on the 6th House of the National Assembly, coming in from 2009 to 2014 or 15, the National Assembly was supposed to have enacted that law. It has gone through Senate, it has gone through Joint House, it has gone through sittings. Now it's just for them to pass the law and the president to assent to it. So that's where we are. Once that law comes into effect, then these would reduce because the interpretation of the law and grievances will be settled. That's number one. Number two, where there's money and no accountability, yeah, you will see every manner of human beings will want to try to find and play God. My advice to Amaju is this. One, sit down. Chris Giwa is not a fairy tale. He's a human being that has grievances. Sit down and work it out in the interest of Nigerian football. Except both of you feel that you are bigger than Nigerian football. If both of you have a stake in Nigerian football, sit down and work it out. And let the minister who has indicated interest to broker, let that peace be brokered. That's number one. Number two, if you have jokers jumping into court frivolously, it's easily vacated because you know what they want. Feed them, house them, settle them. Sure. Then we are Nigerians. Let's not talk about it in a way that we don't know what it is. You take a Harrison Jalas issue. What is his issue? Nigerian footballers have not been let. Okay, no problem. We will sort your issue now. And then, but before we listen to you, go vacate your order in court and let us sit down and listen to your issue. Get Nigerians that are credible, that are private sector people, people like yourselves, to be part of that committee to normalize the situation quickly. Abdulmumini Aminu's committee was set up by the minister and may not have been respected. Get a joint ministerial NFF committee across of Nigerians, respected people like the Alikos of this world. If Aliko calls a Harrison Jala to come for a meeting, I don't think he will refuse. And get those kind of people to be part of it. Senior, eminent Nigerians to say, look, we want to sort this issue once and for all. Come and sit down. And everybody who has a grievance, let us listen to your grievance and come up with a recommendation that will be binding on the NFF and the sports ministry to respect. If we can get to that point, then they will vacate all these orders in court.
I wish we have enough time to dissect further on this very issue, because if you ask an ordinary fan in Nigeria, well, if you ask him, if he listens to you, he may be laughing. You know why? You know, because when you talk about Giwa's case, he's been there before Amaju Pinnick got into the first tenure, and he's back now for second tenure. The case is still hanging in the court. So the football should not wait for you to vacate cases, whom, of course, some of them are frivolous, as you mentioned. And
ultimately vacate those cases.
If you can't move on.
Now,
you can't move on.
What the ordinary Nigerian football fan will tell you is this: what does FIFA want? And that is the beginning and the end of the story.
You can't be. It can't be.
Remember, I've asked this question before.
Yes.
You know, we have been banned in some occasions in this country.
Yes.
And those banning are not unconnected with either litigations or government wading into NFF, and those bans came. So what I'm saying is that it's a recurring decimal that whenever you allow the conventional courts to interfere,
I agree with you.
So now, at the end of the day, Nigeria gets banned.
Yes.
Right. Remember what happened about the few weeks ago?
We're not going to get banned.
Let me help you.
If you touch Pinnick now,
let me help you.
Election, you see what's going to happen.
No, let me tell you. And I will tell you this. We will not touch. Yes, I know. That's the last one for him. We will not touch a dime of FIFA's situation, but we would ask him to account for the monies given to him by the Nigerian government. And if he's found, hold on.
Who go to court? Who for elections?
Hold on.
Not
We want to say thank you very much to Mike and Nahoro. That tells you how passionate these issues are. And unfortunately, I don't know why it is so with football. Out of about 30-something,
basketball is an issue.
Basketball too is hanging, and let's hope that let's hope that our issues will be sorted out locally, and we can compromise and move forward. Now let's go to foreign news as we wrap up this program. Joy, thank you, Joy Opanachi, thank you very much for coming.
Sexism.
It's not so. It's just we're short of time, and thank you very much, Joy and Mike, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
U.S. President Donald Trump has issued an executive order intended to allow the sanctions to be implemented on China. This came as China recently bought 10 Russian fighter jets and missiles. It says such purchases contravened U.S. sanctions on Moscow introduced over Russian actions in Ukraine and alleged interference in U.S. politics. U.S. added that similar action against other countries will be considered. Also, a report says India, China, and Vietnam are the principal sources of demand for Russian weapons in the region. At least 42 people have died after a ferry carrying hundreds of people capsized on Lake Victoria in Tanzania. It is thought the overloaded vessel toppled over when crowds on board moved to one side as it docked. Rescue officials said the ferry was carrying more than 400 passengers. About 100 people were rescued, while 32 are said to be in a critical condition. However, a report says locals joined the emergency teams in rescue efforts. Tanzania has witnessed a number of nautical disasters, with overcrowding often playing a role.
And it's time for us to join the Nigeria Meteorological Agency for the weather outlook for the rest of today.
Hello, glad to have you join us once again on the weather forecast. 2 days ago, a dust plume was spotted on the satellite imagery over Niger Republic, but the dust wasn't transported into the country because conditions are still favorable for rainfall activities. However, it suggests that the dry Harmattan season is just around the corner. And for Friday's forecast, we expect most parts of the country to be partly cloudy to cloudy, except over the central parts where there are chances of localized thunderstorm activities in the morning. We also expect thunderstorms to linger from midnight of Thursday into the early morning hours of Friday and affect southern Borno State and parts of Adamawa and Taraba State. The inland cities of the southeast are to watch out for some intermittent rains during the morning hours. And as we move into the afternoon hours, we expect activities of rainfall over the southeast to shift further westwards and also affect the inland cities of the southwest. Over the northern parts of the country, we still expect to see scattered activities of thunderstorms here and there. And for our temperature forecast, please stand by. Thank you for watching. I remain Paul Uba.
And that's a good morning, Nigeria, for today. But before we call it a day, we would like to inform our viewers that, of course, today is a World International Peace Day with the theme, The Right to Peace, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights at 70. Femi, and that's the theme is celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So wherever you are, please make peace from your family and elsewhere. My name is Kirian Umayo. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back on Monday.
And I'm Femi Okewo. I want to urge you to have a beautiful weekend.
The Federal Institute for Industrial Research, Oshodi, FIRO, was established. Since then, FIRO has been engaged in research work, solving problems and discovering new ways to make life better for Nigerians. These discoveries and research findings must be made available to Nigerians, medium and small-scale enterprises, and the international community. And the vehicle to do this is FIRO House, Africa's first industrial TV reality show, produced and packaged by Lashon Links Limited. For details on how to be part of the show, please visit our website on www.firohouse.tv or call 081-873-55745. Lashon Links FIRO House, bringing Nigerian technology to your doorstep.
Zuma Film Festival 2018 Abuja. Theme: Archiving for Creativity. Date: December 1st to 7th, 2018. Featuring film screenings, masterclasses, special tributes, NFC Annual Film Lecture, NFC Annual Essay Competition Awards, special national and state days, Lifetime Achievement Awards, and Zuma Film Festival 2018 Awards. Submission of entries for non-competition, competition and screening is ongoing and closes September 30th, 2018. All entries should be forwarded to the Festival Director, Zuma Film Festival Nigerian Film Corporation, headquarters in Jos, and or its zonal offices in Abia, Lagos, Kano, Asaba, Yola, and Abuja, or through the Film Freeway online platform www.filmfreeway.com. For further inquiries, call 08033146842, 08052728321, or 08063390420, or visit the website www.zumafilmfest.gov.ng. Zuma Film Festival 2018, December 1st to 7th, Abuja, Nigerian's foremost film festival.
This is the network service of the NTA.